Today's Patreon shout out comes to you with thanks for Kerry Driver. Rendmaw Creaking Nest versus Zuladok, Toxrill and Ognis. Toxrill should be interesting against this deck. Maybe we can go for black into the Night's Whisper maybe. Turn 1 Ancient Tomb isn't the best though. Let's mulligan on this and see if we can get into a less heavy hand. Alright, Solemn Simulacrum I quite like. An early Toxic Deluge could buy us some time as well, especially up against Ognis. Problem is it plays into the hand of Toxrill and Zuladok. Turn 1 Mana Vault for Zuladok. And we draw into a Reanimate. Nothing to do for the first few turns unless we do decide to go for Destiny Spinner, which I'll probably hold on to. Dimir Signet for the Dimir player. And didn't have to tap down his Mana Vault yet. There's a Treasure Vault, and Urza's Mine are the lands, and went in for a Fractured Power Stone. Okay, and a Nameless Inversion is both tribal and an instant, so has 2 different card types. Drop the Swamp, there is an Urborg over here already, but we'll hold off on the Destiny Spinner. Might want to go for a Toxic Deluge to drag the game out, like I said. Night's Whisper draws the Jund player up to 8. If he decides to discard a big creature here, then I'm not against reanimating it. Okay, he reanimates an Anger to give all of his stuff haste. Yeah, could reanimate that, I suppose. Speaking of haste, a Lightning Greaves comes into play for the Toxrill player. And now we see an Eye of Ugin, which can be tapped down for mana thanks to the Urborgs, so I say turn 3, Kozilek, the Broken Reality, and targeting these 2 players for the Manifest. And that player immediately decides to scoop. I did ask for power level 7 fun, in all fairness, didn't expect to see a turn 3 Kozilek, and that's why you don't scoop early, because there was a mana drain coming anyway. So now it's round to our turn, and there we see a Boseiju. Glad I didn't use the Reanimate on the Anger now. Could use it on the Kozilek, it only cares about, it'd just be a big dumb 9/9 really, so not much point. If we want to Toxic Deluge, then we might have to do it now because of the Solemn Simulacrum that we'll be casting next turn. Don't think it matters. So 9 mana being gained by the mana drain. So we see a turn 4 Toxrill, thanks to the mana drain mana. And then down to 2 cards in hand is a Grim Hireling, so I'm glad I held on to the Toxic Deluge now. Swings in at the Eldrazi player for 7 commander. And we get a Manifest creature, the other one goes to the right, which triggers Grim Hireling twice because 2 players have been hit, so 4 treasure tokens being made with 2 cards left in hand. And then a slime counter on each creature you don't control isn't relevant when there's no creatures in play. The Hidden Grotto surveils a Thespian Stage into the bin. And there we see the One Ring. So we'll have protection from everything during his next turn, which means all this is going to be swinging in at us, so I think it is intelligent for us to try the Toxic Deluge. Means we're holding off on the Solemn Simulacrum, which we may need for a turn 5 Rendmaw, so could be held off a bit longer than I would like here. Yeah, I'm not drawing into a land, so let's go Toxic Deluge. It will have to be 7 life that we put into this, but we'll lose more than 7 life next turn anyway if this stuff swings in at us. Might be that the Dimir player forgets about protection from everything with the One Ring, but not worth the risk I don't think. So do manage to successfully wipe the board. Play the Boseiju as a land for the turn, and I'll hold off on the Stone Coil Serpent. Suppose I could go for Reanimate onto the Grim Hireling in order to start trying to progress mana a little bit. We don't have a... Oh, there is a Fate Spinner in the bin here as well, but I think the Grim Hireling wouldn't be the worst. Oh, the Urborg. I thought the Urborg was over here, but it was under the control of the other player. That's annoying. Yeah, I would have gone for reanimating the Grim Hireling there. I would have obviously tapped my mana differently if I thought of that. Oh well. Thran Dynamo, able to continue accelerating for the Dimir player. And out comes an Ophiomancer for some Death Touch. Lightning Greaves on there straight away. And he's holding up the treasure mana. Ophiomancer does come to hit us. The One Ring draws a couple more cards for the Eldrazi deck. And now seeing an Urza's Labyrinth, so might be able to put something underneath that. Was able to put down an Emrakul, the Promised End, underneath there. It's only turn 5, don't forget. More ramp in a Thought Vessel, and an Obstruse Archaeal. So able to copy activated and triggered abilities with that. A land I wouldn't say no to here. And there we go, managed to get into a swamp is lucky, so Just have to hope that we can keep Rendmaw in play for any length of time, although we've still got that reanimate available to us at least, which is the main reason it's in here, to keep our commander in play. So each player gets a tapped bird token, and we'll see how long they last with Toxrill about to enter play again. It comes into play yet again for 9 mana this time, and the bird swings in to the right, as does the commander. Then Toxrill triggers, putting slime counters and a -1/-1 debuff on all of our stuff. Zuladot goes down to 16 thanks to the triggers on the Mana Vault and the One Ring. Decides to draw more cards with the One Ring, goes up to 8 in hand. And then playing and cracking an Urza's Cave and copying the ability, so might be able to set up Tron here with the Urza's Mine. Grabs a Yavimaya and a Planar Nexus. Then the bird has to attack into the left, it's only a 1/1, and Toxrill is at the beginning of each end step, so our birds aren't going to last much longer. Couldn't have asked for a much worse lineup with the Rendmaw, but we might draw into that Massacre Worm again at least. Finally drawing into a 3 visits, so might as well take advantage and go for that. And then it can just be Solemn Simulacrum, we'll be able to still block the Toxrill with that. So Solemn Simulacrum is both a creature and an artifact, so it does trigger the Rendmaw. And while Yavamaya's in play, we might as well go for another swamp here. Toxrill at the next end step again, but nothing dies this time, so no slug tokens. Jack Medallion, and a Whip of Erebos to give himself lifelink on all of his stuff. He's got plenty to swing in with here. So the birds is 4 power in the air and has to go into the right. The Toxrill continuing to try and land commander damage over there, that will be lethal. The slugs might as well come in at us. But there's a Liberator Rafflethopter into play with flash, so can block the Toxrill with that and save himself. Plays a Sensei's Top at flash speed as well, and spins the top with the floating mana. We might as well block a slug token because our Solemn Simulacrum is going to go down anyway, might as well take a token with it. And we drew into a Bloodstained Mire for a land during our next turn. And they did make another slug token when the Solemn went down there because it had a slug token on it. More creatures dying makes more slug tokens, so Toxrill doing Toxrill stuff. Only 1 card in hand, so the Eldrazi player might be able to do something about all this. Goes down to 8 after the pings from the artifacts. Inventor's Fair with Metalcraft will negate the life loss from the Mana Vault. Still has to worry about the One Ring though. And Ulamog the Defiler. Yeah, I think I might have gone for taking control of the Dimir player, although there's no sack outlet or anything to make him sack his board. Well, getting the Toxrill player to exile half of his library regardless. So we can at least have a look through half of the Toxrill player's library here. And the Ulamog came in with 13 plus counters on it, so that is a 20/20. No means of haste on it. So, yeah, it's likely that Toxrill has to try and take it out next turn. Drawing a card to the Sensei's Top. This would be funny if we saw a Lightning Greaves here. Okay, a Manifold Key can untap maybe the One Ring, although probably not. Probably think the Mana Vault. Not whether you can tap the Urza's Mine for mana now. Thanks to having the Planar Nexus in play, you can tap that down for 2 mana. Yeah, untaps the Mana Vault. Maybe it's Swiftfoot Boots he's got and he needs 3 mana. Okay, a Sol Ring and an Oblivion Sower. So you're going to get a lot of lands from the Dimir player here, you would assume. Exiles even more stuff off the top of his library. 6 cards left in hand, and this is an excellent way to ramp the new Ulamog into Oblivion Sower. Yep, so there we go. Stealing a whole bunch of lands, including an Ancient Tomb. He got both Urborg and Cabal Coffers. He can grab back the Kozilek with Volrath's Stronghold if he wants to. So the Eldrazi player is far from over. Makes 25 mana with Cabal Coffers. Exile a target non-land permanent, then return it to the battlefield. And they've done that 3 times, so they're going after the Lightning Greaves. I think they went for a token, and then the Rendmaw as well to try and keep our Rendmaw in play. But there was a counter. It was a counter Squall, I think, so no cards in hand for the Dimir player now. Of course, the last card in his hand was a counter spell. Cityscape Leveler goes after the Lightning Greaves, that's good. Although we don't have a means of removing the Toxrill, unfortunately. Kozilek Butcher of Truth, Annihilator 4, and draws 4 cards upon entry, or upon cast even. Sensei's Top was drawn into, so playing that again, and spins it, and draws with the top. Still has access to the Emrakul under here, don't forget. Not sure if he'll be able to cast it though, instead goes for the World anew. So gaining control of all the creatures a player controls, which is effectively a board wipe, because when he loses control of this, he'll have to sacrifice all of his creatures. So Toxrill still triggering. We will say no to it going to the command zone. And that is a slug token for the Emrakul player. He's going to lose 4 life to the One Ring, which means he doesn't go down next turn. We just draw into another land. So we have to go for Reanimate onto our commander. The whole deck's kind of shut down when you don't have your commander in play here, so yeah, we're forced to do this. This is why I've got Animate Dead and Reanimate and stuff in the list. Upon entry, it gives the bird token. Play the Misty Rainforest, can just tap that for a green. And we'll get as many reaches into play as possible, so that is a Rasta and the Stone Coil Serpent. I don't imagine we'll get any spider tokens from the Arasta, but it is both an enchantment and a creature, so triggers the Rendmaw. Stone Coil Serpent has just been colourless and monocoloured creatures all game, so pretty bad game for us all in all. But we'll play that as a 1 mana, 1/1 reach, and again it is an artifact and a creature, so seeing how the deck is supposed to run, but I wasn't really expecting to go up against really fast, crazy Eldrazi. So it's more of a fun, casual deck. Don't expect to be going up against heavy hitters like this if you want to build it yourself in paper. We will hold up the Nameless Inversion, which I doubt is going to be of any relevance, but might have been able to give our opponent enough creatures to go wide over here. Toxrill makes another slug token. We'll go for the Nameless Inversion now, I suppose, so that we can give them a 2/2 flyer, which might be of relevance. So I think they've only got 1 flyer. Yeah, it's the Emrakul, so hopefully they'll be able to go wide. We'll just throw this at the Ophiomancer so we don't have to deal with that. +3, -3, and does trigger our commander again. Don't fancy our odds against Toxrill, unfortunately. So Ophiomancer going down, a card was drawn by the Toxrill for sacrificing a slug there. Goes up to 7 in hand. Not sure entirely what he could do. Maybe get another Flash Flyer into play as a chump blocker. Going straight through to combat. See if we've just managed to help the Dimir player squeak out a victory against the Eldrazi. All of it has to go in over there. There is a Skittering Cicada, which I don't think helps him here. Still 6 cards in hand though. And a Warping Whale is going to blow something up with 1 toughness. So we do see a Reacher out of that. So maybe he can get rid of the One Ring. When does this trigger? It's at the beginning of the upkeep, so I'm not sure he's going to be able to do anything here. Still going to take 2 damage to the bird, so it turns out that our Nameless Inversion was definitely relevant. Plays a Sensei's Top, and then taps the Ancient Tomb for a single green mana to spin the top, but he is tapped out on mana now. So might be able to do something during his upkeep, but like we've said, it will have to be during the upkeep thanks to the One Ring. So blocks the 2/2 with Emrakul, takes 2 damage, and it was just a land. Looks like it was Nykthos from our opponent. But there's plenty of card draw to be made with not only the One Ring but Toxrill as well. And there are going to be more slugs made here thanks to us producing so many creatures. So 5 slugs are created thanks to the creatures that died at the end of the turn. So Inventor's Fair is going to gain a life. I forgot about that. That might actually be of some relevance. He did stack it correctly. So yeah, when I said that that gains life, this might be the thing that's going to keep him in it actually. He can pay definitely to untap the Mana Vault, and he can do it with the Manifold Key as well. Problem is for him, if he swings in with Nulamog towards the Dimir player, he probably just scoops and takes all his permanents with him. And then it's a case of still racing against the One Ring, so he might take us out with Nulamog and try and get this guy down to 0 life. I think the land he played there was a Shrine of the Forsaken Gods. 26 life from the Cabal coffers and 4 cards in hand. Might as well draw to the One Ring at this point. Inventor's Fair reaches for a tutor. Maybe he has, what's it called? Shadow Spear or something? Yep, there you go. So he can put that on Nulamog and gain a bunch of life. Yeah, being kept in it by the Inventors Fair. Also by the fact that he could take out the 1-1, by the way. Because he would have taken an extra hit to that, obviously, by going wide. And there we go, the Idemir player just selfishly scoops. So the birds can begin to attack us now, as can everything else. We'll just take the damage and see how much we... Or actually, we won't have any choice, will we, thanks to Annihilator. The way he stacked it, we will end up with a Power Stone at least. Or actually, does the trigger fizzle because there's no legal target? Yeah, don't end up with anything on the board, so I'm going to take a massive hit, and we'll see how much we go down by, currently at 23. Alright, only go down to minus 55. Yeah, so an interesting deck. We didn't really get our commander out very fast. Didn't manage to keep our hand full, didn't really manage to do too much of anything, but we got some triggers going and got to show how the deck functions at least. I mean, against fast Eldrazi and Toxrill is a particularly bad matchup for us, so that's just really unlucky. But hopefully you all got some enjoyment from it. The deck list is in the description if you're at all interested in that, as is the link through to Patreon if you want to support the channel financially. Big thank you to those of you who do that already. I'm tribalkai. Thank you for watching.